friends. I hope that your studying is going well. I'm afraid, sorry for the lateness of this last video. Time has just been hectic, and as you know how the year flies by. But it's just going to be a recap of human resources. I'm not going to be looking at the camera. I'm going to be looking at my TV screen. So I am still talking to you guys. I just might not always look at the camera screen. So, as you know, human resources is divided into many things. So the first thing is it has to plan for staffing need. It needs to do employment recruitment and selection, especially that selection part. They need to help compliance with labor regulations, compensation of employee and their benefits or remuneration, the training and performance evaluation, and you can also put retention under one of their key things. Dismissals would also fall under some of their priorities. So these are the 5, and then those 2 additionals if you run out of other things that HR has to do. So this is just, guys, you don't have to study all of this. It is just to show you that HR has a monumental number of tasks that they have to accomplish. Okay, but one of the things, and when you are asked, what is the main priority of HR? It's to motivate employees. Guys, if you don't motivate employees, you're going to have people that are absent, you're going to have strikes, you're going to have grievances, you're going to have employee turnover, and eventually you're going to reduce productivity. So when you are asked why productivity is necessary, you go and you tell me it's all about morale. Okay, this expectancy theory is you have to find what people expect, and if you can match a task, you will have them motivated. Okay, then you got to do manpower planning, and before you start, you got to ask yourself, how many staff do we need? What skills should they have, and how long do we need them for? And to do that, you have to do a job analysis. You need to see what is the understanding of the job. What's in it? When you analyze the job, what are we needing? So you look at the task, the duties, the responsibility. And this is what you use to create the job description and the job thing. So a job description is a much clearer understanding of a role. And it's the first thing you look at, and it's a summary of your purpose, your responsibilities, your duties, and the reporting relationships. Okay, and then your final one is your specifications. That's your qualifications, your skills, your competencies. And it helps HR to distinguish and to shortlist the best candidates possible. So we know internal recruitment, you do it through the internet, through recommendations, through word of mouth throughout the company, through promotions. You do it to boost employee morale, to give more opportunities, to reduce the time of hiring, to reduce the cost of hiring, and they are more compatible with your culture. Externally, you go through agents, you go through social media, printed publications, walkout, headhunters. So any of those are external. Why would you do it? It increases your chances of finding the best skin, you get fresh skills, you have better competencies, you have ideas that are flowing in from inside and out. And the only cons are that you don't have that cultural compatibility, it's going to take longer to find them, you don't know anything about them, there's a higher cost, especially if you use things. And it also reduces morale of inside. If you can think, if I was now up for a promotion and you're like, school's like, no thank you, we're going to go outside and get someone new, my morale's not going to be at an all-time high. Now, when you do it, you have to make sure that you collect your CVs and you get them all in. That's your first step, and these are all part of the selection process. You go and you notify, you identify suitable candidates, you shortlist them, and you use this by generating a criteria. You have to have some sort of criteria, and that is why you have your job specifications. Okay, then you do your background checks, and remember you do your background checks at step 4, not step 1, because you're going to waste time otherwise. Okay, step 5 is you do your interviews, and you're allowed to do assessments, tests, whatever you would like to go through them, psychometric or skill-based. It is not always considered ethical to do medical tests unless it is a requirement of your job. Okay, and you go through CV and you find the best candidates. If they say no, you restart the process and you go on to the next one. So, you have to be able to find the best candidates. You have to go through their background checks. You've got to do interviews. You've got to do tests with them, their skills, their medical history. So they selected and you offer them the job, and you've got to try and be as inclusive as you possibly can. Okay, what does a contract look like? It has to have the details on the employee, the employer, the details of the job, and they have to be of contractual capacity. Remember, above 18, they have to be sound of mind. Okay, they have to be able to, the contract has to be reasonable. You can't expect them to do something that's illegal either. Okay. Then you have here's your little induction stove, and that's induction. What is it? Is getting people into the company, and it's an orientation period, getting them used to the culture, the vibe. You do it either through written policy, you get a face-to-face, you do a buddy system, you do a tour. That is what our school does. So, and it reduces the stress. It creates them an environment where they feel integrated and they feel part of your business culture from the start, instead of having them figure it out later along the line. Okay, so then you got to worry about remuneration, their salaries, their wages. Sometimes they work for commission, especially in sales. So you've got to worry about remuneration structure, and there's two big ones. Okay, a couple more before we go to the two big ones. You have non-financial, which is the satisfaction, the well done, buddy, you did really well. There's the financial, directly financial, that is your bonus, your salary, your commission, your wage. And the indirectly, which is sick leave, holidays, you get paid for holidays for some people, medical things, whatever. Okay, these are just forms of incentives. Profit sharing is where you share the company's profit. When there's a gain sharing is when you increase productivity by a certain amount and you get a portion of it. Pay for knowledge is what they do in IT, especially if you finish a course, they pay you for increasing your skill level. And the lump sum bonus is at the end of the year, they pay you a one-time bonus. 13th check sometimes it's called. Now you have cost plus benefit, or you have cost to company. So a cost plus benefit is that you get a basic salary which is generally lower than the cost to company, but then you get your fringe benefits like your medical aid, your travel allowance, your housing. So you get more benefits, but you get a lower salary, whereas a cost to company is generally a higher salary, but unfortunately you do not get medical aid. You have to pay for it from your own salary. Okay, then you got training. Training is when you do specific things for a job. Learning to do one thing. Okay, something that you generally know, it's not new. Whereas a skill is something you can use throughout. Okay, time management is a skill. You don't get a job. You are not the time manager, but it's a skill you can use anywhere. Okay, then you got to do evaluations. We'll do a bit more of this next year, but you got to look at the evaluation tools. So we will do more of this this year. Please don't worry about it for now. Okay, there's your cost to company. You have your base salary plus your benefits plus any allowances, and that gives you your total cost. So your base salary will generally be lower, but you get all the benefits. Whereas with the cost to company, it will be one block. There we go. Have your money. Do what you want with it. Training and skills development we've talked about. So you've got to make sure that you see what skills are missing, what do we have and where's the gap, what resources are available, what do we hope to achieve, and then how can we achieve it. Okay, so these 4 stages aren't always, it's just something for you to think about. Then we have retention. This is keeping your staff, and they might leave because they feel like there's nowhere for them to grow, they're unhappy with their colleagues, they are retiring, they are leaving, they find a better job elsewhere. And what it does is it reduces productivity, it increases the time that you have to spend with training new staff, reduces morale because people don't like it when their staff are constantly leaving. So it's never a great thing to have a low retention rate or a high turnover rate. Okay, then we have our legislative. What are all of our legal things? So you have your Constitution, which is the highest law in the country. You have your Labor Relations Act, your Employment Act, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, your Skills Development, and Basic Conditions of Employment. So the BCEA is all of the minimum working conditions that you are allowed to have. So it is things like what are your vacations? What are your regulations on the basic conditions that you're allowed? What are the requirements that your job has to have? So I'll show you rather what it looks like. So it's things like you're only allowed to work 45 hours a week, 9 hours 5 times a week, or 8 hours 6 times a week. 60-minute food break with 5 hours of work, and you're not allowed to do more than 10 hours of overtime. Public holidays, you are paid double the rate. If you're under 18, you are not allowed to work more than 8 hours a day. Child labor or forced labor is still illegal. So these are the things that you would look out for when you do the basic conditions of employment. Same as if you must give 4 weeks notice in termination if you want to terminate the contract unless they've committed a legal act. Sick leave, you get 21 days for 6 weeks for every 36 months worked. Okay, Maternity leave is up to 4 months now, from family responsibility leave. So all of these, you have 21 annual days of leave as well. All of these form part of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. But there are always some loopholes, especially in our informal sector. People don't always work according to the law. They are not protected. And most people work longer than 8 hours a week. Unfortunately, it is the case, especially if you are a teacher. Okay, there's an example. Please feel free to read through it if you want. Pause the video. I'm not going to go through it now. Okay, then you have your Labor Relations Act done by Montana and team. So your Labor Relations Act is things like mediation, arbitration. Okay, conciliation is when you come together and you start talking, but the person doesn't get involved. Mediation is when the actual person from the CCMA starts talking. Arbitration is them telling you what to do. Okay, they've got to make sure you have safe working conditions, and they need to protect your employee. But most importantly, one is your contracts in the Labor Relations Act, is provisions regarding working hours, taking leave, all of the above. But even more is your trade unions. Your Labor Relations Act deals with the CCMA, deals with trade unions. If you're looking to talk about the LRA, you talk about trade unions. Okay. So your Skills Development Act. So what your Skills Development Act is you need to be able to train and develop your things. You have to create jobs, especially after 95, that you need to create employment and training. So they make sure that there's economic growth and employment opportunities for everyone. Okay, those SEATAs are what they use to make sure that it happens, and the whole thing is that they want to create more jobs and people with more competitive industries. Okay, so here's an example again for you to read through, and more examples, well done by Aaron. But what you want to do is coaching. Coaching is before you start doing it. If you're coaching someone, you're trying to get them, it's that prevention is better than cure. Whereas correction is when you have to step in and say, okay, you did wrong, we gotta have to fix this. Okay, disciplinary versus grievancy. Disciplinary is when you have done something wrong and you have been disciplined for it, but you are also allowed to file a grievance. If you are unhappy with someone that was done, you should be allowed to file a grievance as well. Okay, so you can be dismissed for 3 reasons. Incapacity, you are not capable of completing the job. Misconduct or operational, which is also known as retrenchment. So if you are going to be fired for incapacity, you need to be shown that it was a reasonable job. You may not be allowed or not allowed to dismiss someone because of their health, or you could rather take unpaid leave or demote them if necessary. Okay. But you've got to make sure with the previous one that it was reasonable and that you took measurable steps to help them. Whereas misconduct is if you break the rules of conduct and you are not allowed or you broke the rules, then you are kicked out. But the rules must be well known, they must be fair, and they must be consistent. Okay, if you do not match those 3, you cannot be fired for misconduct. That is why your code of conduct is always stuck on a wall somewhere, because it's well known then. Okay, here is your disciplinary procedure. Please read through it if you want. I'm not going to go through it again. Okay, make sure that you know it in case of a multiple choice question or something. Okay, unfair treatment. You can go and if you feel like you've been treated unfairly, you can strike, meaning you stay at home. You strike legally with your trade unions. You can do a go slow, where you work slowly on purpose. You could picket, meaning that what we love doing is toying in a public space where you get that sympathy strike. A lockout is where they don't allow you into the building or you don't allow them into the building and therefore strike. So sympathy strike is also there. A work to rule is the other one that's not here, and a work to rule is following the terms of your contract to the letter. Okay, collective bargaining, which we teach the grade 8s. Collective bargaining means that the trade union, the person involved, or the workplace forum, and the employer sit together and they negotiate what the best course of action is going forward. Okay, and that's where a workplace forum comes in. A workplace forum is when 50 or more people come together, or 100 or more people come together, and they discuss all of their work-related issues, provide feedback, and create an opportunity to speak with your supervisors, if it were. Okay, so they are there and the representatives for the business. Okay, they deal with training, health and safety, the workload, if you feel like your pay and benefits need to improve, your policies and procedures, and any changes can go through a workplace forum. CCMA we spoke about earlier. This is just another recap of how the various CCMAs work. Okay, grade 11s, please good luck with your exams. Reach out if you need any help, and I will see you soon.